What's up? Welcome into this Tuesday edition of Pushing the Pile. I'm Mike Renner. He's Kyle Long, and Pete Prisco joins us.
The big dog.
I see. Well, every Tuesday we're going to break down his power rankings in a little bit, but the story we're going to start right off the top.
Boy, was I wrong about those Jets. I mean, me and him sat here the last couple of weeks talking about, well, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, if he is actually healthy, and this offensive line, the retooled, reloaded offensive line, New York Jets, they're going to look good. But it was the defense that showed up and peed down their leg a little bit. But you know what? It's less them peeing down their leg, and I'll give a lot of credit to the San Francisco 49ers front for just taking them by the throat and driving them down the field the entire game. Rookie right guard Dominic Pute, great. George Kittle, ass kicker in the run as usual. And this offense just looked methodical. They could do whatever they wanted against this Jets team. And we heard Robert Saleh say, when we want to stop the run, we can stop the run. And they didn't, Pete.
Well, and I'm guilty as you guys because I had him going deep into the postseason in large part because I thought the offensive line was fixed. I'm a big believer in Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback, and we thought the defense would be the same defense. They're not. They got mauled. They got bludgeoned. Yeah. And when he needed to throw, guys were open too. And didn't the Chiefs put out the book on playing the 49ers in the Super Bowl? You 8 in the box, press them outside, and the Jets certainly have the corners to be able to do that. Why didn't they do it? They did not play that way. I was surprised at their game plan, but they got mauled. And one more thing about that game. Does it really matter who the running back is? Look, Christian McCaffrey's special, but go back to any Shanahan coaching guy, starting with his dad. Every time there was a running back, Terrell Davis was great. I remember a game where Terrell Davis went for, I think, 160 or something against Jacksonville, and then they put Derek Lavelle in. You remember that guy?
He had like 7 a pop.
He got 100 in the fourth quarter. Mike Anderson, Olandis Gary, on and on. It doesn't matter. Whoever they do.
His dad was the OG of running backs.
Yeah.
He started the trend that then obviously is extended to what we see with running back contracts.
Mike, I have a question for you. Yeah. How much of that game and the final score was dictated in the first half when they kept stubbing their toe? I mean, there was the third drive of the game where they went down, scored, running it into the end zone. But it was 4 third and 6 pluses that Aaron Rodgers stepped back to, one of which was an empty protection. They went empty for the first time in that third drive, and I was like, here we go. I looked at my wife. I said, Aaron Rodgers is on an island here, 3rd and long. And he was able to make completions. But it was that second drive. You get the fumble. You get the Allen Lazard drop on 3rd down early in the game. You cannot afford to stub your toe on the road. Credit to those Niners fans. They made it really hard pre-snap every single time.
It set the bad tone, but they were losing this game regardless with how this defense played. And with the game plan they had, and truthfully with how the defensive line showed up. I thought Will McDonald, their first-round pick last year, who's obviously filling in for what Bryce Huff would have done, what Hassan Reddick would have done, he was a liability in the running game. I mean, he was getting taken advantage of. I credits off to the 49ers offensive line. I thought Colton McKivitz played a heck of a game. I thought Dominic Pute at right guard looked like the best offensive lineman I saw of a rookie this past weekend. But the Jets front seven just did not show up. Quinton Williams wasn't making plays. Javon Kinlaw was getting exposed, going sideline to sideline. And when you give up as many yards they did a pop in the run game, it's like you're just going to lose.
And the turnovers. You can't. If Aaron Rodgers isn't perfect, you need to be damn good on defense. And they weren't damn good on defense. And Aaron Rodgers, a couple of those throws he'd like to have back. And it wasn't like he was absolutely sailing the football. There was a few throws that were 6 inches behind or 6 inches in front that cost the team turnovers. And when you're playing against a team that can run it at will like the Niners, you cannot afford to miss those.
I didn't like flow of game. You got Aaron Rodgers, and they came out and they were going to line up and run the ball. And it was just you got to dictate to the 49ers, not let them dictate to you. And I thought they put him in 3rd and longs too many times. And here's the issue with the Jets right now. Wilson's a hell of a player. Hall's a good player out of the backfield. I think he tiptoes in the line too many times. But here's the other problem. Where's the other weapons? Yep. Lazard got a garbage time touchdown, and he had the touchdown on the free play. But he doesn't scare anybody. Mike Williams wasn't a burner before he had his last surgery. They have issues with the other weapon, and I think that's going to show up on a contract.
They showed Mike Williams on the sideline one time. They were talking about, well, we're waiting to see Mike Williams. He's coming back, and they panned to Mike Williams. You know how sometimes they pick the wrong time to show the dude on the sideline? When I tell you he had ghosts in his eyes on the sideline, it was like, I'm not sure if that guy's ready to play. And I know how that is as a player when you're coming back from an injury and there's a lot of expectations of you, and obviously a huge game on the road, prime time. Your family, your friends are like, we're looking for you, Mike. Where are you? I can relate to that. So they're going to have to figure this thing out offensively. Alan Lazard, he was like, well, I thought this was the Green Bay Alan Lazard. That's what I've seen from him this offseason. And obviously, oh no, that's no bueno, Mike.
Yeah, the two biggest takeaways I had that I have in my notes here. One, like you mentioned, Jets outside of Garrett Wilson, no one getting open. Jawan Jennings for the 49ers would be far and away their wide receiver 2 right now, and he barely gets to see the field for the 49ers. And part of that also being, I don't think Garrett Wilson's like a true number one. You know, he's a number one in that offense, but he's not a CeeDee Lamb. He's not to that tier where you have to. He on 3 different occasions, and the pick that he threw, he wasn't getting open. I mean, 3 different occasions that Aaron Rodgers threw it to him.
He had a JanSport
flat
on his
out
back.
Was not a 4th down late in the game. He didn't create enough separation. It wasn't a perfect throw from Rodgers, but you're expecting when you have that guy, you need him to be consistently creating separation. And then the other thing, 49ers just like shine brighter.
Oh shit, my phone went off.
Oh,
I don't know.
Prisco
I
making
don't know
a
what that
rookie
is.
mistake. Second show.
There we go.
Go on, keep it going.
Places
I wanna
like
see
that. But the 49ers start shine brighter on defense. Fred Warner,
Dude.
game-changing play. Nick Bosa, unblockable. That was not the case for the Jets and their defensive stars. You know, they did. Sauce Gardner didn't show up. Had missed tackles in the running game. You didn't have Quinton Williams making plays whatsoever, whether it was run or pass. So that was the difference in the game.
I'm not panicking on this Jets offensive line, though. I'm really not going to panic on this Jets
Well, you're
offense.
The Jets offense was like the best part of their team.
We used to have Brady Quinn work there. He was a quarterback apologist. Now Logan Ryan's working here. He's a defensive back apologist. You're an offensive line apologist.
Nick Bosa is one of the best rushers in the National Football League. You're playing on the road. They've got their ears pinned back. They're playing with a lead. They know that Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball because they stuffed the run with Fred Warner at the beginning of the game nonstop. I'm talking, we're going to try running left.
Yeah, but all we heard about
there's
was how
Fred.
great these
Now we're going to run up the
veteran
middle.
tackles are around.
There's the
Look at the
hammerhead
veteran
shark,
tackles. The
Fred
line's
Warner.
fixed. The veteran tackles.
Now we're going to pin pull to the outside. Fred Warner goes over the top of 2 defenders, flies in like a friggin' banshee, Pete Prisco. That's the kind of thing that the San Francisco 49ers do. They dictate the terms of engagement early on in the game, and then you got to throw the football. And to my point about Nick Bosa, you got rushers. And if it's not Nick Bosa, it's Leonard Floyd getting home. You've got a bevy of issues when you're playing from behind against a Kyle Shanahan team on the road on a primetime game.
Yeah, but again, last year at the end of last season, teams got physical with the 49ers. They didn't like it. And so they changed their run guys. In fact, Kinlaw was one of them, and he had problems with the run. When you look at their changes, is Malik Collins a great run player? He's an okay player. You should be able to run right at him. And if you run at them, you get those on those linebackers. The linebackers are great. They flow to the football. But if you go back and watch last year, at the end of the year when teams ran it on them, they were getting bodies on those linebackers. And when you get bodies on them, that's a problem. And so I don't think the Jets' run game, everything was wide, first off. Run right at. If you're going to run right at.
That with what they built offensively, they can move people in the running game. That's what they should be able to do, and they're just running wide zone and pitching it out to the edge. But I'm like, that's not their bread and butter. And that's the 49ers.
That's the strength of their defense.
Yeah.
It's like, try to get our edge. We're going to chase this thing down and group tackle. And I just, to your point, Breece Hall, I would love to see him get to football and make a cut after he passes the line of scrimmage. Make your one cut and put your head down and run the football like we saw Jordan Mason do.
Yeah. And by the way, Tippmann, I haven't watched the tape yet, but he's a big center and he's high. That could be a problem for them in the middle of that offense in the run game.
I didn't think he had his best game, but I will say this. I mean, Rodgers was accurate. 2 quarterbacks coming off of Achilles. He looked so much better than Kirk Cousins.
And the ball was out
way earlier, but he was accurate. The ball was out.
He didn't move, though.
It didn't move, and he's not going to move.
And a big part of his game, his career is moving.
Yeah.
Last year or so in Green Bay, he had eliminated a good portion of that.
But he has to.
But he wasn't even. It was more. This looked like back when he pulled his calf in 2014 and was scared to even do anything.
Right.
And when he does that, he's like, he'll take a lot more kind of like dump throws where it's just he knows it's going to be incomplete throwaways as opposed to that little bit of extend.
As a Packers fan, as a lifelong Packers fan, in 2014 he had Josh Sitton, All-Pro, T.J. Lang, Pro Bowler, and then they had good tackles, obviously with Bakhtiari. And who was the right tackle at that time?
Brian Bulaga.
Yeah, Brian Bulaga, who's a great pro. So I mean, he's used to playing different styles of football, whether he wants to roll out and change the launch point or he can stay in the dish. But he had all pros there. They have yet to prove themselves on the interior part of that offensive line for the New York Jets. The tackles, obviously, I think are experienced enough to hold up, and he can be predicting what they're going to do.
Yeah, but he looked hesitant to me. Like I think you said
weren't getting open.
A little. I mean, the arm was great.
Yeah.
The decision making is still good, but for him to move he's got to be able to move. That's a big part of who he is, and not move to run because nobody wants to see him run. Move to throw.
Yep.
And he didn't do any of that at all. And he just looked a little. Even there was one handoff where he had problem getting. Deep handoff, and it looked like he was afraid to put his foot in the ground.
He was hobbling a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of the first handoffs of the game, he actually did a boot action off of it to kind of keep the defense honest, and he looked a little bit ginger on that foot.
Well, we got some big news from Rodgers before the game yesterday. His new documentary series, Enigma, comes out December 19th on Netflix.
Look at that guy, dude.
Are we going to should we watch it together?
Is he a shaman?
Show? I mean, that's definitely post ayahuasca. He's in the South American.
First time he saw light in 2 months was that picture.
He looks, I mean, saying that guy, he looks like a middle-aged man is on an NFL football field right now.
He looks like a surf instructor.
He's not going to be breaking.
He looks like a surf instructor I wouldn't trust my wife with. You know what I'm saying? This guy's like, you want to do scuba? You want to do the scuba?
You're talking about that little movie where the guy walks over, boom.
You want to do scuba?
That long?
What was that? The couples therapy?
I think it was
couples or something. I
don't know. But
like
he's like, how old are you? I don't do age. Neither does Aaron Rodgers. He looked to be an NFL quarterback last night. I don't have a lot of concerns about Rodgers.
I actually can't wait to watch that. I mean, in my conversations with him over the years, he's definitely different. I mean, there's no question about it. He's different. I like him though.
He's a fascinating dude. I mean, he's got opinions.
He has an opinion, and he thinks about them, and he gives you thought, and I don't mind that.
And the thing is, like, it's so easy to, when you're in the public eye, to just not make waves, and he could do cash checks from Allstate commercials till the cows came home, and he didn't want to. He stood up for what he believed in, and well.
You know, that's the other thing is I
always razzing people.
I remember I asked him one time, I said, I used to go around and ask quarterbacks these kind of questions. Would you rather have a true number one wide receiver or a dominant defense? What do you think his answer was?
Dominant defense.
Huh?
Number one
defense.
I can make anybody a good receiver.
Correct. Dominant defense.
It's the Tom Brady effect.
Well, he also said he wanted offensive line over wide receivers. He would take that all day if you could give one or the other.
And that's back to that Green Bay experience he had.
And then Matt Ryan said he wanted wide receivers over offensive line. So
Matt, get out of here.
Other story, post-game, Jordan Mason made waves saying he was told on Friday. This was immediately post-game. He was told on Friday that he was going to be the starter. That obviously a little bit of a violation of league injury reporting rules on the San Francisco 49ers part because they didn't tell the league until right pregame that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to play. Obviously, Jordan Mason found out on Friday. That would be a lie. And then Mason in his actual press conference after Kyle Shanahan said, no, that wasn't the case. It was on Sunday. He said, this is why I don't like talking to the media. So not a great response that doesn't give you much confidence that Jordan Mason was just mistaken when he said he was told.
Somebody definitely told that guy that he was going to play. I don't know if it was Kyle Shanahan, but one thing about the NFL, if you're not a starter in the National Football League, Friday nights are a really fun night for you. You know, you can go do dinner, you can maybe stay out a little bit later. Obviously, if you're a starter, you're going to be a shut-in on Friday night. You know, you might check on your high school's football score and hang out. That's the way I was.
Well, maybe Friday nights, I knew plenty of guys that were starters that would run wild on
this
Friday.
Isn't the 80s though anymore. Pete Prisco, you know what I'm saying? When I was playing, Friday nights were the night you get a really good rest, okay? And then Saturday you get your feel-good workout, your walk-through, and then you can travel and not worry about it. But if you're Jordan Mason, you're going into Friday and somebody tells you, hey, you're going to be playing, I'm going to have a different way about going about my weekend. I thought he did a great job, obviously, in the game. But I have a big issue about this. This is like, the honesty policy in the NFL is being tested here.
There's rules.
There's rules for a reason.
Right. I mean, for somebody somebody got prop betted him.
That's the thing.
I think they're all promoting all this stuff. And so here we have somebody could have bet Jordan Mason. If he told somebody, he could have bet Jordan Mason on a prop, and you're going to win a lot of money. So I think that's where you get the gray. It's not a gray area. It's a black and white area. They're going to get fined.
I wouldn't be surprised if picks are involved in this taken away just because of what you said. The betting aspect, the NFL has to protect that because it's such a cash cow for them. If you don't have the trust of the public when, obviously if you were a 49ers bettor, like it really didn't change the outcome. If you thought Christian McCaffrey was going to go out, it would have moved it the other way, right? So I don't think it really changed anyone's bet, but you have to protect that integrity or else that's like people will lose faith in the product. So to punish them, to make sure this doesn't happen, I think you're going to see a bigger punishment than maybe you might think.
Yeah, and rightfully so. You know what bothers me about it is, okay, if you're the New York Jets and you know that Christian McCaffrey has a calf injury, you're preparing in case Mason plays. It's not okay.
Yeah.
You're sitting there saying, okay, well, he's got a calf, he hasn't worked. We might not see him, so let's prepare. So what the hell is the secrecy involved in? It's always infuriated me in the NFL. It's like, what are you doing? Everybody prepares for, you get an idea of what you're preparing for anyways. This scenario, if you're not, then you're not doing the right preparation.
Yep.
If you're the defensive coordinator and you say, okay, well, if McCaffrey's in, this is what we have to do. If Mason's in, this is what we have to do.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think about Arthur Smith last week going down to Atlanta, and that offensive line, he didn't name his starting unit until the game, and they asked him throughout the week. He's like, this is a competitive advantage for me.
Yeah.
I just
I will say there is no reason, I mean, like, if you can create any semblance of chaos on game day for the other coaches, so there's something else for them to worry about.
this is the name of the game.
Why not do it?
That's the name of the
I
game.
mean, like,
in the National
why not
Football
do
League.
it?
Yeah.
But
you can't.
Okay, but you only have
legally, you couldn't.
a combination of 7, 8 guys that you're going to mix and match. You're going to prepare for whatever combination you could. If we're going to face this combination, or we're going to face that combination, or if that guy's the left tackle, we might do this. You prepare for all of them.
Yeah.
So,
you have that whole day of Saturday, though, that they're still thinking, what do we do if Christian's this? What do we do if Christian's that? It just takes their time away. That
Let's be real.
they're not getting Jordan Mason involved in the passing.
Let's be real.
They did.
They work way too many hours for what they actually need to work
Also
to
true.
get things done.
You talking about staff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you got another couple hours to worry about combinations, okay, fine, you can do that. I mean, look, the bottom line is it's paralysis by analysis. And if you're worried about the combinations of the Steelers' offensive line, that means you haven't done the work on who they are, because there's going to be that combination. You don't know who started left guard. Okay, well, if he starts, then we'll do this. If he starts, we'll do that. You just prepare for it. And that's the problem.
Yeah. Who told Jordan Mason? When was he told? And why did Kyle Shanahan say he wasn't told?
And those are really investigation.
Those are really the questions.
Who was the investigator?
Got to send the feds out to Santa Clara.
Exactly. All right.
I feel bad for the kid, though. I've seen kids like that get trapped in those kind of situations, and he's going to get crap from the team for saying it. And he was just answering the question honestly.
Exactly.
Well, the Jets couldn't trap him last night.
It does suck that
and he ran hard.
It does suck that that's what we're talking about with him, because he had a fantastic game. And
We like him.
And he did nothing wrong here. He did nothing wrong in this scenario.
You know what?
No, except for snitch.
Here
on
you
his
go.
boys.
Grab one over here.
He
There's
snitched.
another running back you can put behind, and they'll run right through there. I mean, they're everywhere. They're running backs. They grow on trees.
All right. That was Monday Night
He's
Football.
not a snitch. He's just young.
We're going to get to Pete Prisco's power rankings here right after this.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
All right. We have Pete's power rankings. Some movement after a big week one.
You want me to do my Canadian Football League power rankings?
Do you have one?
Montreal, number
Alouettes.
one.
Okay.
They're the number one team. Out west, you got a couple teams. Edmonton, BC's back because Nathan Rourke is back playing.
Nathan Rourke.
Yeah, I love watching the Canadian football. We got a major.
How can I forget Nathan Rourke?
I actually had to grind Canadian football tape for the first time ever for the NFL draft this year. Quantez Stiggers got picked, and then he gave up a catch in the fourth quarter yesterday to Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
So,
But he was on the field, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
It's a great story.
all right. His top five as it stands right now. Kansas City Chiefs still at number one. San Francisco 49ers moving up to number two. Green Bay Packers take a little bit of a tumble all the way down to what? 15? Oof.
Yeah, because the quarterback situation.
Yeah. Validly so. 3, Buffalo Bills. 4, Detroit Lions. 5, Houston Texans. 6, Dallas Cowboys. 7, Baltimore Ravens. 8, Philadelphia Eagles. 9, Tampa Bay Bucks. Moving on up to the top 10. And then 10, Miami Dolphins after a big home win against the Jags. Bottom 5, not much changing.
And I don't think you're going to see the bottom team change all year.
These may not change. Washington Commanders at 28. Denver Broncos at 29. Las Vegas Raiders at 30. Although they gave a fight to the Chargers. They may move up. They may have some wins this year. New York Giants at 31. Carolina Panthers at 32. Those may be set in stone, though.
By the way, those are in your inbox, in case you're wondering, Kyle.
Oh, yeah. I just had some trouble with my printer this morning. So our fabulous producers in the back, Debo there, got me a big printout. I got all these papers. But I like to see what Mike's doing. This isn't a test that we get in trouble for cheating on. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
All right. Time to do our Goldilocks segment, though. Who
Yep.
was too high? Who was too low? And which team was just right? Kyle?
Okay, for me, the team that's a little bit too high is the Los Angeles Chargers. And I know that they had a win in division, and I know that they've got a new coach, they've got a great quarterback, but they still have a lot to prove to me. Joe Alt did a fabulous job. We're going to talk about him later. I think that this team is built the right way, but there's just too many holes on that team at the skill positions that I think when they get into a game against a team not named the Las Vegas Raiders, they can see themselves in an arm race where they just don't have the munitions to fight back. And in that division, you're going to see it sooner rather than later, right? But for the Los Angeles Chargers, a little bit too high for me there in your rankings. That's all I got to say about the Chargers, man.
I have to agree with you. Obviously a big win anytime you're facing a division opponent. It's never easy. But I was really unimpressed with their interior offensive line. Joe Alt, awesome at right tackle. Rashawn Slater, obviously, top 5 to 10 left tackle in the NFL. They're solid there, but they were getting pressure at will on the interior. Zion Johnson had a bad game. Bradley Bozeman does not look like a starting center in the NFL right now, unfortunately. And so when that's the case, and you don't have the wide receivers that you trust, I just think this offense is going to go stagnant a lot. And yeah, maybe they can run the football, but
Justin Herbert's going to run for his life.
Well, the offensive line will get. I mean, every offensive line in the league stunk this week.
That's also true. So
I don't know if that's the case. I watched the Niners dominate last night.
Okay, that's the one. Well, the Jets might be bad on defense.
Kansas City
too.
Chiefs did okay.
Hey, here's the other thing about the Chargers. Just give me a look, and they're going to be higher than you think because look at the next 5 games or 4 games what they play. This week is a layup. They play Carolina. Carolina couldn't beat the number 1
at Carolina though.
They'll be pissed off from last week.
No Derek Brown now. Do you think they're beating them?
Yeah, that's tough. And
no, so they'll start 2-0, but then Steelers, Chiefs, the next 2 weeks for them. That's when we'll find out.
Well, where's the Steelers game at?
Steelers is in Pittsburgh, and the Chiefs are at home, but there's no home games for the Chargers. So
yeah. And then 5 is a relatively
Denver Broncos.
Yeah, so if they win one of the 2 in the middle there, they're 4-1.
Yeah,
and so.
Well, I'll talk to you in a few weeks about this then, Pete.
I'm ahead of the curve usually.
All right, my team that's too high is actually a team that they just will be facing in a couple weeks. So we'll see who's actually correct here. Pittsburgh Steelers at 12. I just think, yes, they went on the road, beat Atlanta, obviously massive win, but I think a lot of that more showed me Atlanta is fake in a number of different ways or has their own issues. And I just don't see the Steelers offense being able to, 18 points in this one. That's kind of the max I see with Justin Fields at quarterback. Now, maybe with Russell Wilson, it's different, but outside of George Pickens, teams will start saying, hey, they really don't have anyone else we need to worry about here and start putting a little bit more attention his way. And then I just think offensively, they're down. They just don't have a ton of talent, and they have a young offensive line that was not that good in their own right. So I do think that the Steelers defense is good, but I don't think it's so good that this is a top 12.
TJ Watt is still the best.
Who should be ahead? Who should be? You guys say they're too high. Who would you put ahead of them?
Well, I'd put the Jets ahead of them. I know their defense got trounced, but they faced the 49ers. It's a little bit different animal. And Aaron Rodgers looked far and away better than Justin Fields at least.
Yeah, but Justin Fields, you could gimmick up some stuff for him. I'd keep him in there and let him run stuff. Okay.
I do feel like the Steelers and the Bears are similar teams. So you have those 12, 14.
Defenses will keep them in games. They've got some young quarterbacks. They're trying to figure out what their style of play is.
Right.
But I'm definitely not sold on the Steelers yet. And it was a lot of.
I'm not sold on them yet either. But I put them there just because. Look, it was an impressive opening victory on the road against a team that everybody had winning the division.
You're right.
All right, who's too low?
For me, too low is the Arizona Football Cardinals. And there's a lot that you can glean about this team when they go on the road. And for those of you who don't know, when you travel,
27th.
When you travel across the country, 27th is too low for me, for Arizona Cardinals. They've got a quarterback who I love. Kyler Murray's great. I think he really is. They've got a running game, which can keep you in the football game. But you know what? They had to go against this guy named Josh Allen last week. When you go across the country, when you go east, it's a lot harder for teams to go east, okay? Teams are going to be coming to Arizona. They're going to make the long trip there. But at the end of the day, Marvin Harrison, the production wasn't there week 1. He was on the field a ton. He was open a lot, but they weren't able to get him the football. I think they take a look at the film, find what works for them. I think they do stick with the run a little bit more heavily to keep them in the game. But they had these Buffalo Bills on the ropes in the first half, okay? Josh Allen had to go MVP Josh Allen, the guy that we know and love. He just went out there and let it hang on those guys. You're not going to play him every week. You're not going to be playing against the number 1 offensive line in the National Football League and the Buffalo Bills every week. They look to be in midseason form. So for the Arizona Cardinals, I think it's a little bit too low. I think obviously in that division, we're going to have some question marks. We saw the Rams look shaky at the offensive line position. We could get after Matt Stafford in a division. There's a lot of question marks there. The biggest one is, why are the Cardinals so low on your list?
I can't let you just go with that. Buffalo Bills, the best offensive line in the
Yeah,
NFL.
I mean,
The Philadelphia Eagles after week 1.
A lot to prove to me for the Eagles. Can they keep that group together? I mean, Mekhi Becton is a tackle that moved to guard. There were some things that I wasn't crazy about from a technical standpoint. Obviously, him and Lane Johnson are going to get to know each other better. That's a great O-line. But I'm a Cromer disciple. Aaron Cromer's the offensive line coach for the Buffalo Bills. I know the technique he teaches. All the technique was on display across the board from that.
I'm with you. That line doesn't get to do what it deserves.
The problem with the Cardinals, and I think they're better than 27th, but they do not have playmakers on defense outside of Buddha.
Nobody.
They just do not have guys that can get after the quarterback.
They got two safeties and their inexperience on the edges with the corners. You know, Murphy Bunting is the guy we know.
Schemes, but even against this wide receiving core that's objectively, middling at best, I think, for this Buffalo Bills, they were still scared of their corners. They're still backing them out at the snap, really trying to put a cap on opposing offenses because they can't go mano-a-mano. They don't have the guys.
They're going to win some close games.
They're going to be look. The Cardinals are going to be feisty and a pain in the butt for everybody, but I don't think they're going to win. It'll probably get 7 is the most they can get to.
And they're not in a good division to just pick up a couple here and there.
The pass rush. You mentioned the pass rush. They need to play. They need to play Gardeck more. I think he's one of those guys.
He's like the only one.
He's the only one.
But he gets just annihilated.
I know. But you got to play the pass.
You can't be a specialist anymore. You need to be a guy that can do both in today's game.
You got to be able to rush the quarterback at some point, though.
Exactly. All right, my team that I think is a little too low, Indianapolis Colts, had the Texans, took them down to the wire. Now, I think they were outmatched by the Texans, but the Texans, rightfully, are a top 5 team in your rankings. And to do that, and I was at home, it was week 1, it's a divisional opponent, but what I saw from this offense, if Anthony Richardson can just hit on a few more.
Isn't that the question, though?
But it is. But also, these guys are running wild. The talent they have at wide receiver now, with what Adonai Mitchell looked like week 1, him and Brian Thomas Jr. both look like
it's the Kentucky Derby in Indianapolis. It's just a bunch of friggin' horses running around. The
quarterback's erratic, though.
Quarterback is erratic.
The quarterback's erratic, but he's also very young. He's got 17, 18 games now started and since high school, or including high school.
The defense was awful, by the way.
The defensive line got
some pressure.
They can. So I think a lot of that, though, was who they faced. I think this Texans O-line is very legit, especially in the run game. Those 2 guards were moving people. Kenyon Green.
I think talk about one of the better offensive lines. That might end up being one.
Shaq Mason's a beast.
So I think that to me,
is good too.
Defoe and Grover Stewart are still your DTs. Now they don't have much depth at that position, but those guys I trust throughout the course of the season. I think they'll figure that out. But they got some pressure. They could rush the passer at different areas. I thought Kwity Paye looked like the best I've seen from Kwity Paye. I thought Latu, when he wasn't facing Laremy Tunsil, is going to get pressure on guys. So I think they have the horses to do it. Defense is an issue, but I think this offense is going to be like a borderline, probably a top 10 unit, borderline top 10 unit.
If the Packers had Love, and that's where the Colts play this week, would you be picking the Packers or the Colts?
I'd be picking the Packers.
So then they'd be going 0-2 out of the gate.
True, but we're talking
about 2 playoff teams.
Yeah, but again, at some point
the Colts have
to prove to people at some point that they can win the division. And all we ever hear is the Colts are good. The Colts are good. When was the last time the Colts? What was it with Andrew Luck?
The RCA Dome.
Yeah, I mean seriously.
Well, Lucas Oil saw some years. They had a Super Bowl year in Lucas Oil, did they not? I
mean, maybe I'll give you a little bit of that. Maybe they could be a little higher, but they got to prove it to me first. I'm a prove it guy. The Colts, everybody always talks about the Colts. Prove it to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the stuff that makes you go, that makes you love Anthony Richardson, and then it's the throws that you might yawn at. It's the crosser, a 10-yard hitch route that
he missed Mitchell.
He sails.
He missed Mitchell twice.
You got to hit the layups. You got to hit the layups, and that's one thing. Aaron Rodgers last night was hitting the layups, the sticks throws and stuff like that. If Anthony Richardson can hit some sticks throws, put the ball in the guy's hands, his ability to run the football, be a real threat there on the edge of the defense, it's going to make that offense so much more explosive and dangerous. I really like the Colts.
I think let's see, who are they next year? 23. Ahead of them is the Falcons right now, the Browns, Seahawks, Rams, Vikings, Jags.
Oh, the Browns.
Yeah, well,
But then right behind them is the Patriots. I don't know. Maybe it's just that's like the tier ending spot where it just feels like they should.
I mean,
go
the Browns are a talented roster. It's just the quarterback.
Oh boy, there's no hope in Cleveland. When you don't have a quarterback, there's zero hope. And right now, they do not have a quarterback.
I feel good about my preseason question about the Browns, which was, do they have the cojones to bench Deshaun Watson? Because Jameis Winston would win them games.
100%.
He would
He would get those guys
Deshaun Watson
juiced.
will not.
Jameis Winston. Well, think about it. They keep talking. He doesn't have his tackles. He doesn't have Nick Chubb. Well, they didn't have him last year, and Flacco took him to the playoffs.
Yep. Off the couch.
Right.
Off the couch.
All right, finally, the Goldilocks pick.
Goldilocks pick. For me, it's the Baltimore Ravens. And we watched week 1, Baltimore Ravens going to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they took them down to the wire. Granted, it wasn't pretty at all up front. I'm going to say this. You're not going to play against Chris Jones every single week. You're not going to play against Patrick Mahomes every single week. And okay, the Kansas City Chiefs got better. We saw weapons on offense. But for the Baltimore Ravens, I think if they can continue to play their brand of football, which is get the ball in Lamar's hands as many times as possible, if he can stay healthy, this team will have a chance to be competitive at the end of the year every single year. Look, we like the guys on defense there in Baltimore. They need to find a way to make big plays in big situations. One turnover may have changed that game. Another turnover may have changed that game. And obviously, you get your tight end, Isaiah Likely, in some white cleats, and you could be looking at a different, 1-0, 0-1 type situation. But you still have Lamar Jackson. They can sure some stuff up on the offensive line. Falele really gives me some cause for concern. The center, there's some issues there. But at the end of the day, you got Lamar Jackson. He can make mistakes. He can make some mistakes right.
I'll say this about Lamar. If there's any quarterback that I would want behind bad guards, like a DT bearing down on you, he's not going to sack Lamar first time. He can create even when there is that interior pressure. So it's obviously impactful, but Lamar is like the unique dude who can get around.
And right tackle, I mean, that's an issue too. I mean, their offensive line's an issue. It's a major issue. But here's the other issue: pass rush. They manufactured it last year. McDonald does a great job of manufacturing it. Well, can they manufacture it now? And they didn't. Ajabo had the 1 sack, but where was the other big time pass rush on that team?
I saw some good protection last week from those Kansas City Chiefs. The offensive line looked pretty good.
Well,
I think they just went up against.
But other than Jawan Taylor, you should be able to attack him every play.
Well, here's the thing, and everybody talks about Jawan Taylor, how he's a liability. I think that his style of play matches up with the guys that he plays next to. So he's got Trey Smith at right guard. And one thing we know about Trey Smith, we were talking about this morning, he's got eyes in the back of his head, and the back of his head is pointed towards that right tackle. So when the inside move comes, Trey Smith is there more often than not to make the end pay. Jawan Taylor loves to get off the ball quickly, okay? So you see him time that snap up. It almost looks like offsides, but I promise you it's not offsides, okay? He's getting to his spot quickly. He wants to cover that defensive end up as quickly as possible, and he says, if you want to go inside, go inside. I got a big homie waiting for you. So Jawan Taylor understands the weakness. He doesn't want to get his edge taken. He doesn't want to get the edge taken. So he covers guys up. And sometimes you force that bull rush to fall inside. That's when Trey Smith's waiting. So I don't have concern about Jawan Taylor.
I used to have an alarm for the quarterback apologist. Well, now we have one for the offensive line apologist.
This is an explanation for why Jawan Taylor
he's below average as a right tackle.
And relative to his offensive line, I would say yes. But he knows the strength of that unit's on the inside. So he's going to funnel everything to that inside.
It's the best inside 3 in the league.
Yep.
Yes, sir. All right, my team, my Goldilocks, Houston Texans at number 5. They're there. They are right there in the mix with the best in the AFC. I think the talent you saw on that roster, you really saw shine in week 1. Some of the additions, whether it was Stephon Diggs, whether it was Kenyon Green coming back at left guard.
Joe Mixon.
So Colts are a good team on the road, division rival, to really put a hurt on them the way they did, to really put up 29 points against that defense. And CJ Stroud kind of had like a B- game in terms of by Stroud standards, and still put up a bunch of yards. And mixing in this running game now just provides such an element that they didn't have last year, that they're tough out. I'm not putting them in the caliber of the Chiefs right now. No one is in the AFC, in my opinion. But that is a team that could even go into Arrowhead and beat them. They have places where they match up well against pretty much everybody, because it's They're just a talented football team.
It's interesting to me to see the success that Joe Mixon had in this destination, being on the Houston Texans now, because usually you see these running backs, they leave the place that they were and then they don't have the juice anymore. We see a lot of these running backs have second opportunities places, and we'll get them some handoffs, but Joe Mixon was a featured back in this offense. Joe Mixon is a big part of this offense. It adds another dimension, another layer that makes him even more dangerous, and it's scary. The Houston Texans, B- game, B game for CJ Stroud, and they still go and do that on the road. That's big time football.
I'm curious to see what their offense looks like against the Bears defense this week. That one will be a good matchup.
I'm curious to see what Caleb looks like.
By the way, and I wrote this to lead into the power rankings. It's the overreaction. It's 1 week.
Yep.
1 week, and we got this guy is a star, and that team is going to the Super Bowl, and this team stinks. I mean, right? I mean,
isn't that how this works, Pete?
Yeah, but it's so you can't get a gauge on a season until October comes.
Yeah.
And you can't find out until anybody's really good until November comes.
Well, that's why we're policing the overreactive takes. That's what we're doing. That's
what we like to do.
That's why we're doing it. All right. We're going to go and build the best run blocking, short yardage, gap scheme, offensive lines. After this, also going to do a little bit of awards in the final block of the show as well.
Today, with the support of the NFL, a new playbook is being written. The National Gay Flag Football League provides inclusive play for over 4,000 LGBTQ plus players and allies. Here is a home with no penalty for being you.
What's going on, guys? Pushing the pile. What is it, Tuesday? We had a late night last night, and we saw some running of the football from the San Francisco 49ers. Today, with this group here, we're going to do a little draft. We're going to draft the offensive line you would want when everybody in the stadium knows you're running the football, when you need that yard, when that goal line is right in front of you. You can smell it. We're going to give you the guys that you want on your offensive line for when that time comes. How you want to start this?
Pete, we'll give you the first pick. So we're going to draft. You got to draft a full 5 O-line. So it's going to go you, Kyle, me, you, Kyle. We're going to go around, and you pick either left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, any position you want. I think we should say that they have to play that position. Like if Trent's on the board, we can't draft Trent and then say,
play
he's
right
playing
tackle.
left guard for us. So we're going to. So
I would say you can flip guards.
You can flip guards. Tackles, they should probably stay at their position.
Centers, stay in there and touch the ball.
I'll take Penei Sewell.
He's taking Penei Sewell with his very first pick at right tackle. I gotta tip the cap there. That's a great first.
That's a big pick, and I'm gonna go with my right tackle, Tristan Wirfs, and I don't think there's anybody really.
But he's a left.
Well, I'm gonna have him at right tackle because I've got a left tackle coming.
See, I don't. I think we gotta play. I think you gotta play the position.
I've got a left tackle.
No, I think you gotta play.
I thought we just said we could flip guards, but
we can flip guards and tackles.
Okay, flip the tackle.
Joe Alt is now a right tackle, and Rashawn Slater's flipped back to the left side. We see all this happen all the time.
No, but you gotta put. I think you gotta pick them at the position they play.
No, I'm cheating from
you
the
are
start.
cheating.
I'm cheating from the very start. I want the strongest guys.
Wirfs was a right tackle.
I know that.
So, but he's a left tackle now.
But I have him at right tackle because I want him at right tackle because that's where I want. I want the deuce on the right hand side. So my right tackle for the deuce is going to be Tristan Wirfs on the right side.
Mike, I think we need to have a vote here.
Seriously. No.
Yeah.
You ever been in an O-line room?
Huh? No.
We can go tackle.
I will say I'll allow it because Wirfs played majority of his career at right tackle.
Thank you.
But I voted on.
If I'm building the best line,
I voted on All Pro, and they vote by the position.
Am I the O-line coach in this O-line?
Yeah.
This O-line, we're gonna have Tristan Wirfs at the right side.
All right.
Okay, I'll just take an easy one, and I'll just go Trent Williams.
Okay.
Not that he's like a
Are you going to play him at right tackle?
Scheme guard, but he is going to be my left.
You're going to play him at right tackle?
He's never done that.
I know he hasn't, but you're moving guys all around.
There's my left tackle, so I have an LT.
Pro right tackle.
Huh?
So you're going Trent Williams. Now you get to pick.
I'll take Creed Humphrey.
It's a good pick.
Creed Humphrey at center. So Pete has Penei Sewell at right tackle, Creed Humphrey at center. He's really taking advantage of that first overall pick.
I'm going to go Lidstrom, and I wish that they ran the ball more in Atlanta because.
So you're going your full right side is done here with Tristan Wirfs and Chris Lindstrom.
Yeah.
I like Lindstrom.
That's my double team.
Wasn't great last week, but I like
my double team. Well, they were asking him to do things he's not great at.
I like Lindstrom.
I'll go. I mean, actually, you guys both have right tackle, so I don't need to necessarily. And he hasn't flipped sides, so I'll just keep my right tackle in my back pocket then, because I know who I'm going to. I'm going to go. Let's go Quinn Nelson at left guard.
That's a great pick. Notre Dame homer pick right there.
Yeah, I got to get me one dome around the offensive line. Oh, line you.
I think his play has deteriorated.
It has. He's not
years.
year 2. Quentin Nelson, we're never going to see again. He was
That
an absolute
style of
man.
play, you
Too
cannot
many
sustain
injuries.
it.
Too many injuries, but I think he can move people off the line of scrimmage in the short yards.
That guy's body is going to be so beat up when he's done, but he's so damn good for so long.
Yeah, I think his play isn't as good as it's been.
Okay, so now your pick?
Yeah, I'll take. I'm trying to think off the top. I'll take Mailata.
Okay, that's a really good pick. That's a lot of ass and mats. And for me, I'm going to go in the middle of the line of scrimmage, a guy that I saw do this against my teammate, Akeem Hicks. I'm going to go Frank Ragnow.
I like that one.
He's one of the biggest, baddest. He just likes to hunt and fish and kick ass on Sundays. Give me Frank Ragnow at the center position in my offensive line room. And you take a look at that right side that I just built. You know, I put Tristan back on the right side. I've got Chris at the right guard. Now I've got Frank Ragnow. I got a violent group here. We're gonna get this ball rolling.
So Pete has Penei Sewell, Jordan Mailata, Creed Humphrey. You have Tristan Wirfs, Chris Lindstrom, Frank right now. I have Trent Williams, Quentin Nelson. Really, the only position I should probably target here is right guard to try to snipe Pete. So I'm going to go Quinn Miners as my right guard to move the line.
I like that.
Broncos right guard.
He's got dreads. He's got his belly out,
he's
too.
a good player. He didn't play well last week either.
That's true, but last year's.
Yeah, it was very good last year.
All right.
So I need 2 guards, right?
You need your guards.
So which tackles can I convert to guards to get the biggest offensive line?
I'm a tackle that converted to guard. You want to go a retro pick?
Some of the best guards in the history of the game have been converted tackles.
You want to go retro pick?
Huh? Yeah, I'll take Kyle Long at right guard.
There you go. First down. Prisco's. Okay, so you get Kyle Long. Okay, well in that case, I'm going to go with some youth. I'm going to go with some youth on the offensive line.
Make sure you don't go out on Friday night like you used to during your day.
That was Monday night, buddy. O-line dinner. Okay, till the cows come home. For left guard, I'm going to go with some youth and a guy that is in the same room with a guy that I love for the last decade, Zach Martin at the right guard position, but Tyler Smith left guard position, strong hands, somebody that.
By the way, he would have been my pick if I didn't really pick you.
I mean, he is a dog.
He's the best guard. He's the best guard in football right now.
Actually, I regret not going Tyler Smith over.
By the way, can I take my pick that I was going to pick instead of actually picking you?
Go ahead, Hoss.
Tyler Smith. He's the best guard. He is the best guard in football right now.
So with Tyler Smith, it leaves me some options, but you've already taken Quinn Miners. I took Lindstrom. I'm going to go Joe Thuney. Really smart. He's somebody that, and you know what? When you're in these low red areas, when you're in the short yardage areas, you got to watch late ads. You got to watch safety rotation at the snap of the ball. Joe Thuney, as good as anybody at recognizing pre-snap what the defense is trying to do. That's my pick. Joe Thuney.
I'm going to go, I guess my next pick, I'm going to go Lane Johnson at right tackle.
We knew you were saving that one. It was in your back pocket.
That one was, yeah. Well, you guys already cashed out tackle, so.
So I'm going to have the biggest, baddest, nastiest short yardage line you've ever seen. I'm taking Trey Smith at right guard.
That's a great pick. Trey Smith, a great pick. We got to get your pad level down, Trey. Come on, 6'5".
But think about the mass of my line.
So Penei Sewell at right tackle, Jordan Mailata at left tackle. Anytime you can get a couple Islanders as your top 2 picks, got to go for it. Creed Humphrey at center. Left guard, Tyler Smith. Right guard, Trey Smith. Yeah, that's an ass-kicking offensive line.
So now for the left tackle position, if you notice the right side of my line, I'm going to be running it to the right, by the way, okay? So for my left tackle position, I'm going to go with somebody who is a freak athlete, somebody who I watched squat about 8 million pounds, front squat, coming out of college from Northwestern, Rashawn Slater, okay? This is a really smart guy. This is a really technically sound, pro-ready guy coming out. And he's only gotten better since he's been in the league. A lot of people, are going to talk about Joe all year, but don't forget that you've got a guy that's an all-pro caliber player in Rashawn Slater at the left side.
Who was kind of like Joel's rookie. He was ready-made from day one.
It's kind of easy for these guys.
So yours is Tristan Wirfs, Rashawn Slater at your tackle positions. Chris Lindstrom, Joe Thuney at your guards. You got kind of trim guards.
These are athletes, okay?
Those are athletes.
Something about a double team. You got to get it started, and then you got to go get the guy on the other side, okay?
Frank Ragnow at center. I kind of missed the boat on the center position. Ragnow and Creed were the 2 that you wanted. I'm looking around the off. I mean, if we gave me like 2 years, Cooper Beebe's probably in that mix. He's an ass.
You're having a problem because there's a real drop-off.
Drew Dahlman's a great pick.
I'm going to go Lloyd Cushenberry.
That's a good pick.
He's like solid. I definitely missed the boat. I had the 3rd pick. I missed the boat.
What about Linderbaum down? I mean, in a year.
Linderbaum's just so slight.
I know he's little.
He's a guy that gets leverage, though. He can drive when he wants, but he's also, if you get hands on him too quickly, he can go way backwards.
Well, I mean, I masquerade as a general manager anyways, but as a general manager, I won this exercise.
Let's take a look.
I got my guy back where he wants to be on the right side.
I think Pete did win. I mean, he had first pick. First pick's gonna.
It's okay.
But I do think Pete won.
I wouldn't have taken the
He
little.
also stole Tyler Smith from me retroactively.
I would have taken. He's
Yeah.
the best offensive lineman in the league.
Well, then you should have used him
He's
for
the
your
best
pick,
guard in the league.
Pete.
No, I
you.
start with my tackles and my center.
And I got hurt day one of practice.
What are the
Anyway,
most important positions?
Yeah, so he subbed you.
What are the most important positions?
The center.
And the tackles.
Well, I think it's center
No
and
offense.
guards. I think it's center and guards.
No, but you're wrong. It's the tackles.
Why do you think it's the tackles and not the guards? Don't you want a clean dish in front of your quarterback?
I think, yeah, but I still think the tackles are so hard to find to deal with those athletic guys on the outside.
If you just stay inside out, you can run it by. The quarterback
And the
steps
other-
up in front of a clean pocket, and then you can make the throw. Okay, if we're on time and rhythm, it doesn't
there are
matter.
only so
who's
many
playing
guys that can
tackle.
play tackle. I think you can convert guys to play guard.
That's so disrespectful.
Well, think about it. Okay, Yanda was a tackle.
Hall of Fame guard.
Wasn't Quentin Nelson a tackle at Notre Dame?
That's
yes,
because
he
high
was.
school coaches.
Quinn Nelson was a guard.
High school
Zach
coaches.
Martin was a tackle at
Zach
Notre
Martin
Dame.
was a
Yeah,
tackle.
Yeah.
he can do everything.
So I mean, you could. Semele, remember back in the day, he was a
Really?
tackle at Iowa State.
His mindset is guard. KO's mindset was a guard.
But so
He would have been a first round pick.
which is why the transition for Becton is interesting to me because he's such a big physical guy and he wasn't good at tackle. He might end up being a decent guard.
I think that the angles when you're playing inside, everything gets shortened up. And for Mekhi Becton, we'll take a little trip down to Mekhi Becton Lane here. When you, no pun intended, Lane Johnson. When you're playing the guard position, the things are on you so much quicker. So like I'm lined up at guard. This is the D tackle right here. When I'm Mekhi Becton, usually that is where the defender is. So my angles in run, whether it's play side or backside, are changed, whether it's the defensive end or the three technique. And, sometimes these things happen so fast. And as a tackle, when you've had so many reps to tackle, it happens too fast for you to adjust. For Mekhi Becton, it's going to be reps. It's going to be getting those double teams in practice and the live reps in the games with Lane Johnson. And to your point, I think if Mekhi and Lane can figure it out and get hip to hip, it's like a three-legged race. That's what our O-line coaches used to say. It's my inside foot and then Lane and I's leg together right here. Boom, 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 boom. Running these guys out of the club. That's what you're going to see. And Saquon's going to be able to press that linebacker, make a decision.
See, and you know this because they don't hit in camp anymore, so it's hard to work those reps and the timing of it.
Yeah, we work it so much with the offensive linemen. It's like an individual period. They say, okay, Johnny, you get out there. Lane and Mekhi, you're on the double team, and I need a linebacker. Give me a linebacker. These aren't linebackers. These are all backup offensive guard, backup center playing D tackle. So the looks you get in practice are not the same. Mekhi realized that after 1 week.
He actually did a couple of good things getting off to the second level, though.
I love Mekhi Becton. We loved him coming out of Louisville, and obviously if he could just stay healthy, he'd probably still be playing tackle. But he's in this situation now, and I think it's good for the Eagles.
All right, some awards from the week that was. Week 1, we all have our different awards to give out. Kyle's going to be doing the Florida Man.
Florida Man Award.
Every week. Pete's going to be doing the Mulligan and the Showed Me Something. I'm going to be doing Rookie of the Weeks on both sides of the football, offense and defense.
So I'm going to do a little explaining on the Florida Man Award. Me and Mike just moved to Florida. Pete, obviously, you can tell by his tan, and he's an Italian guy. He's been down in South Florida for a long time. You're from the area here.
I grew up here, yeah.
What if I were to ask you, what is a Florida man? What would you say?
Well, based on what you see sent out on the Florida Man thing, it's the crazy, lunatic, crazy stuff that goes on.
Just like I'm talking fan boats, I'm talking wrestling alligators, could be deep sea fishing. You could be doing a little bit of everything. And a guy that did a little bit of everything this past week was Zach Bond on the Philadelphia Eagles. This guy was everywhere. And you know what? They were talking about him during the broadcast. And, it was like the second quarter. And I was like, this is my Florida man right here. And then they said, you should see his basketball highlights too. The guys in the locker room says he's the best basketball player, has the best high school highlights. That's the Florida Man Award. A guy that played with his hair on fire in the football game, who was probably overlooked a little bit in the scouting report coming into the football game. Well, nobody's going to overlook this guy now. He's all over the field. Zach Bond, great job last week.
I loved him coming out of Wisconsin. I think I had him as a top 50 player.
But
I
I
was
was positionless.
But I thought he was having to move to off-ball linebacker. I'm like, he's a guy who could maybe sub-package, like what Leo Chanel is doing. Now, Leo Chanel was an off-ball linebacker at Wisconsin, but maybe he can rush on third downs if you want. Yeah, it's stuff like that where it's like he can add on, but if he's full-time there, it's not going to work. Saints kept him there full-time for the most part in his career. Actually, I think it was early on they tried him at linebacker, then switched him back to D-line. Off-ball linebacker in that scheme, he was fantastic.
Again, it was one game.
Got a player.
One game.
Okay.
We rush these guys. I mean, I'm doing the same thing because I was asked to do it on a guy, but I think he's ready for a breakout. So,
Who's your mute button award?
My mute button award is Joe Alt, and we talked about him a little bit before, and he was going against this Raiders football team, and what do they like to do? They play defense, and they've got a real ass kicker out there at the edge position, and there was 2 snaps in particular that stood out to me about Joe Alt. It was the dead straight bull rush that Max Crosby hit you with. Now, Max Crosby, if I'm prepping for him, I have to prep for 25 different moves, and I'll have to learn 26 and 27 that he just came up with last night. But the one thing about an offensive lineman is you need to be able to sit on power. And with length from Max Crosby and his get off, it's a really tough ask and a tough out for a young player to do that. Joe Alt, I saw him sit on 2 bull rushes. Man, oh man, that's a mute button. When you can sit on a Max Crosby bull rush, kudos to you, Joe Alt.
his father was a pretty good player too.
He's a good kid. We interviewed him this offseason. He was a great kid.
Yeah, good player. Going to be a really good player.
Pete, what are your awards? What do you got?
Well, I have breakout guy. Isn't that what do we call him?
Show me something.
Show me something.
Show me something.
Greg Rousseau.
Oh, yeah.
3 sacks. You know, he's a former high school wide receiver. He played wide receiver in high school. He is a big-time athlete, but he's had the injury issues. And when he's healthy, he's a guy who can get to the quarterback. Now, he had help. Von Miller's starting to look like Von Miller again. But run game, physical, tough, made a couple plays, really good plays in the run game. I think Greg Rousseau is on the verge of being something special this year. And if he is, that Buffalo defense hasn't had that kind of guy in a long time to go with Von Miller.
Well, Von can turn it on when he wants and be the best player on the field.
But last year
Greg Rousseau, they can rely on him to be the guy that every third down, he's going to be giving his best rush. Now,
Right.
Von comes into the 2-minute scenario and can make plays, but it's great. It's complimentary.
Yeah.
And not only did he barely play, as you said, didn't play D-line in high school, didn't play until college. He played 1 season of D-line in college.
Yeah.
And then had the COVID year. He sat out that year. And so the ascension.
And he's been hurt in the Bills, too.
And so early on in his career to have like injuries, but I think you saw it at times. This game was easily, I think, the best performance we've seen from him in his career. Just the power on contact that he can do. Yeah. That looks like a breakup player. He's not even 25 years old yet.
Yeah. There's going to be something big there. And
He's too damn athletic to be out there rushing the passer.
and Von
I'd be
Miller-
pissed. I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, get him out of here,
He has
dude.
35-inch arms, too.
Yeah, it's
Get
amazing.
him out of here.
And Von Miller's getting back. He said, he goes, I thought I was going to be back last year. He told me that. He said, there's no conceivable way I thought I was going to be so different than what I used to be, because he came back from one before, but he's older. But this year he feels like he's close to being back to where he was. And that's big for them.
We love to see a healthy, happy, confident Von Miller.
Love him.
All right. Who's your Mulligan Award? The coach that maybe wants a do-over after week 1.
Well, Doug Peterson, what in the hell were you doing? I mean, it's 17-14, right? It's a low-scoring game. Your defense has played well against a high-scoring offense, and you have a 4th and 1 in your own end, deep in your own end. What was it, the 30? What was it, 30, I think it was, or 29? And you go for it. These coaches are out of their minds with this. It's okay to punt in the National Football League.
But they have all the answers, Pete.
Yeah, they do. They do. It's okay to punt. And not only did he go for it, he ran wide.
Oh, the play call was a disaster.
The play call was terrible, but why would you go for that? What if it was, here's my scenario on it. Game flow matters. If it's 45-42 and both teams are going up and down the field, okay, I get it.
Give a crack at it.
Right.
We're probably going to get it.
But it's 17-14. You have the lead. Now, it didn't hurt them, they'll say, because they missed the field goal. The defense actually showed up and stopped them, and they missed the field goal. But what it did, it kind of gave the other team some life, and it gave your team, oh, gosh, this is going bad. And they actually fumbled a kickoff later on, too. I mean, it's just to me, you can't allow a team to get that kind of momentum by your stupidity. And that was a dumb decision.
I will say, so it was at their own 32. The 4th down decision bot that Ben Baldwin created, basically.
I love this thing, by the way.
Had it as a strong gopher. 3.6% win.
I don't care what that bot
going
says.
for it versus not going for it.
Here's the other thing about that bot.
I would want the play call. The play call we talked about yesterday was absolutely, it was dead from the start. They were overloaded to that side. Didn't have the number receiving
and
block.
Cam Robinson
LMF.
whiffed. Hey, by the way, here's that bot. I want to tell the bot this. When their stats are thrown into there, how do they do it? A yard, right?
It's based off of
a yard.
Mainly based off of the it's a down distance situation, and it's based off of the betting odds.
Okay, but if the ball is inside the 2-yard line,
yeah,
on the data sheet, what's it say?
Okay, so it says 1, but there's difference.
Okay,
between
if the
1.5
ball
and
is
a half.
inside on the goal line, that far from the goal line, what's it say on the stat sheet?
1.
They the same.
Yeah, that one's one that.
It's never all those analytics guys point to their analytics. Okay, if the goal line's here and the ball is right there on the stat sheet, it says 4th and 1 or goal, but it's a 1.
Not 4th and point 1.
And if it's just inside the 2, what's it say?
4th and 1.
It's not the same play, is it?
Yeah, no.
So analytically, when they throw their data out there, it's not the same play.
That's true.
That's a good point. I never
Good
really
point.
thought about it that way.
Now they say they're getting to the point where they can do
With the
inches,
Yeah.
but let's see it.
They've tried with chip position that I think teams actually with their models can use that, and so they can differentiate between the two situations. But alas, we shall see if we get more.
Well, Tony
of those
Khan,
going
who
forward
works for
from-
the Jaguars, is big in the analytics business, and,
You went to high school?
he goes, well, we're working on it.
If you guys in the chat or at home have any thoughts about who would make your mute button award, who would be your Florida Man Award winner? It could have been Fred Warner the way he was playing last night, but we had Bond in there. I had him written in stone before the game happened last night. We've got other awards, and we're glad that you guys can be here to enjoy them and learn about them in the first iteration of it.
All right, my Rookie of the Week awards. Offense, I had Taliesin Fuaga written down. And then Dominic Cooney put on a show yesterday that looked like the 49ers' second best offensive lineman in that game. Lost, I think, once in pass pro that I saw.
Which happens.
That happens. Javon Kinlaw, we talked about his diet. He's the one who got the better of him. But in the running game, man, he was getting to linebackers quickly. You see the athleticism there. I think he had the fastest short shuttle time of anyone at the combine, any of the guards at the combine. That showed on tape. And for his 49ers team, that was kind of exactly what they needed.
By the
He
way,
gets to his landmark so
what is
quickly.
he? He's a converted tackle,
He gets to
He
his
played guard.
but he's a converted tackle.
gets
He's
to his
also
landmark so
a guy
quick.
who was left guard in 2022, left tackle in 2023, right guard now in 2024. So 3 different positions.
That's what
in
I
3
did.
years.
But he was a
That's
tackle.
what
He
he
came
was.
into the draft as a tackle.
Yeah. But he was darn good. I'll give a shout out though. Taliesin Fuaga had a great day in the running game. We'll see. He wasn't even really tested in pass protection. They didn't want him to, and flat out, the Panthers didn't have anyone that could. So we'll see about that aspect of his game going forward. And then wide receivers, a few guys that really popped: Brian Thomas Jr., Adonai Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy. Those guys, as the season goes on, no one really put up big numbers, but I think all those guys.
I'm going to say
McConkey's
this
in the
right
right
now.
place.
Brian Thomas is going to be in the Jefferson
Wow.
that class.
In that tier?
He was
Chase
he looked
Jefferson.
awesome.
Yeah,
He looked like their best wide receiver.
Yeah.
Week 1.
they stopped throwing it to him.
And
AVG for the Vikings wins Florida Man and Mute Button Award. I love a good acronym in the chat. Well, thank you very much, Straw Hat Nelson, for that.
Ian Van Ginkle.
Yeah,
There we
yeah.
go. That's it. The
Van,
big 6.
Van
King.
Ginkel.
You missed Ginkle down here.
The Dolphins messed that up. They should have kept him.
Sweet. My defensive rookie of the week. Some big fellas in the trenches did well. None more than the biggest fella, Devondre Sweat. He was dominant in that game. That was the best rookie nose tackle performance I've
He's a
seen
wormhole.
in years. I mean, he was.
Well,
It's easy to
Belly button's a worm.
when you see him just dominate college players. And you're like, okay, he's strong. What he did to Tevin Jenkins and gosh, I'm blanking on who's the center's name. Coleman Shelton for the Bears.
The center also got tripped by Tevin Jenkins once on a blitz ad in the low red area, and I called out the center for saying he got pancaked by the linebacker. I looked back at the film; he did trip on Tevin Jenkins.
Good.
So I take back any negative tweets.
Here's our O-line apologist. You got to be done.
Literally.
But Devondre that was big boy stuff for a guy in his very first game. Byron Murphy, Jerry Verse both deserve a shout out. If you're fans of either the Seahawks or the Rams, those were very encouraging starts for both those guys.
You know who flashed a couple plays? He didn't play much, but Mason Smith flashed for Jacksonville in their tape.
They did. Okay.
He's going to end up being a good player.
He was a guy who was, just so physically gifted, but his freshman year was honestly his best tape at LSU. And
Well, he tore the ligament.
Towards Achilles or ACL.
ACL.
And then the next year wasn't quite dominant, but still declared. And so anytime those guys who flash early, especially along the line of scrimmage, that was kind of like Dexter Lawrence too. His freshman year was so good, and then he kind of tailed off. Bet on that talent.
The Sweat situation is amazing because they try to keep his weight down. And when I was there, somebody was telling me the story about how they got a dietitian for him. Well, when the dietitian would make his meal when he was going home in the off season, they'd make the meal for him, and then he'd take 7 Gatorades with him full of sugar. And so he was eating the good meal and drinking all the sugar. And they told him, you can't drink those and think you're going to lose weight.
That's one thing about the National Football League. They will have an abundance of stuff for you to take home if you would like, with refrigerator stocked with Pedialyte and Gatorade. Now the hard part is figuring out when to use each of these things.
You forgot the Toradol.
I wish they had more Toradol. But in these fridges, you got just, bottles of sugar and salt solution. And if you're not using them at the right time, it can counteract the whole process. So for a guy like Sweat going home with 8 Gatorades, I can
they
see
told him you can't have that.
It would be a problem.
He did look like a house, though. I mean,
oh my gosh,
360.
He looks like a duplex, not a house.
Surprised.
He's not
2 front doors on that building.
Let's put it this way: they wanted him at 355, so he hasn't got to the want to number. I can tell you that. It's just like Vita Vea last year.
Yeah.
Vita Vea was 400 pounds at one point last year.
Man, to be like fat for your job, but then to be too fat is incredible. Like that always.
Like Trent Brown.
Well,
yeah, it's like fat's your job, but just not that.
Well, because it wears you down. You know that. It wears you down, and your body just gets beat up.
I got fat one year, 2 years I was fat, and it was after lower body injuries. And it's just like you can't train, you can't run the same way that you were. Practice was really the conditioning. You condition through hard practice. I wasn't able to practice all the time. I got fat. My technique went downhill, and I wasn't able to play as hard.
Here's another thing about that is, and I've always said this, these guys around here know, I call it fat ball season instead of football season. And because no matter what happens, the fans all get fat, the coaches, they all eat, but the offensive linemen have to weigh in. And so when they start everybody has to weigh in, but when they start the season, the offensive linemen come back, they're looking in shape and they got a certain weight they have to make. In November, they're still making the weight,
but our
their bodies
composition changed. That's such a good point.
It's so different.
That's such a good point.
You look at a guy in September and he's like, he's yoked almost, and then by November he's slovenly.
That's why we build our fortification up so strong in the off season, so that day one you could look at your veteran, he look at you and say, how do you feel today? And you say, I feel pretty good. Well, good. That's the best you'll feel all season long, because you're not going to be able to lift weights with the same fervor that you did in the off season. Your nutrition maybe will take
it's fat ball season.
Dips. Yeah, it's fat. That's a good way to put it. Not necessarily fat ball season, but you lose muscle mass throughout the season.
Right.
And if you're going to keep the same weight and you lose muscle mass, what are you gaining?
You're getting fat.
Getting some fat.
Yeah.
All right. That's our show. Pete's going to join every Tuesday to break down his power rankings, and we have a special guest tomorrow's show as well. Leger Douzable will be joining us, former Jets defensive lineman. We may talk about
He'll be crying. He's already crying.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.
But we will also be doing a mailbag tomorrow. So if you want your question for sure answered, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We will answer for sure any of those questions, no matter how outrageous. They have some curse words, we might have to edit them, but we'll answer them.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
If you don't want to leave a 5-star review, you can still hit us up on Twitter to ask questions for the mailbag. But until next time, I'm Mike Renner. He's Kyle Long. He's Pete Prisco. Keep pushing.